Top from the ancient giant trees.
What about giant trees? Do you believe in giant trees?
To the giant trees that were cut down.
So you know all those tree trunks that the giants left behind?
And there's this curious theory about these giant trees that used...
Yes, curious. And also, yeah, the conspiracy theory. This natural formation you see behind me on the photo, this is called the Devil's Tower. It was formed through a natural process. Just like this formation in Ireland called the Giant's Causeway. Now, this was formed by cooling of magma or lava. Now what happened was, the cooling of this magma and lava, you see, it started cooling from the outside inwards. Now, through thermodynamics, we know as an element tends to lose energy. As the second law of thermodynamics, you want to go from a high energy state down to a low energy state. As this happens, it's cooling because heat is energy. Now it starts cooling from the outside inwards, and when that happens, all we know, molecules starts to compact. They start to contract to a tighter form. You can see this with the melting of plastic or any other thing as well. Now, as it contracts, the hot magma in the middle wants to still be expanded because it doesn't want to contract because it's still warm, it's still hot. Now, this causes stress, and the best way to release the stress is through cracks. And when there's and the cracks always happen in the weak point. Now, this weak point, then it starts to form a shape when it cracks. This is, like you can see, the hexagon, where you have each corner at 120 degrees. This would use an release of energy in the most efficient way. This is the nature's answer to the most efficient way of energy release. And you will see this in the formation of the honeycombs, and also bubbles. If you put lots of bubbles together, it will give you the same shape. This is the most efficient shape that would release the most efficient way of energy. So nature always tends to this shape. This is not magic, this is not man-made, this is not a tree, this is the shape. In the case of the Devil's Tower, as it has this form looking like, they say, a tree stump, it was formed because this whole part of the tower, or Devil's Tower of this mountain, was still underground. Now, the rock surrounding it was softer. This was a magma tube, where the magma would go up into the volcano and spill over. Now, it lay dormant there, and the dormant volcano would start cooling down. And that's why the flat top is there. Just like water, it will find a level, not towards gravity. And as it cooled down and it formed this hardened shape, and Earth's natural corrosion started happening, it would take away the softer material around the Devil's Tower. It would not start corroding the Devil's Tower faster. So that's why it stood alone there, where the softer rock and sand around the formation would have corroded first before it corroded the tower itself. Petrified is also a word that is slung around madly when it comes to this. They claim that the other formations is petrified wood. This is petrified wood. They do not understand what petrification actually means. It's the same basics as fossilization, where an organism, for instance wood, or even they say flesh of giants, that's also a claim they make with the Malayan salt mines, is petrified giants. Okay, this formation, petrified wood, or any petrification of any organic material, organic is the key word, is when something dies, for instance, maybe a tree had fallen over, and then it then covered quickly. It could happen in a flood. Maybe not a biblical flood like they say, but a flood. Or ash from a volcano. Now it's buried quickly and kept away from oxygen. So decomposition doesn't happen as quickly. Now, while it's laying there, and water when it rains and the water seeps into the ground above it, or whatever it was sealed with, it starts bringing down elements. It starts bringing down certain minerals that's getting seeped through the rocks, carried by the water. Because water is also a bit abrasive, it would take minerals off rocks. So when it seeps into towards or through the whatever buried this, for instance, a tree, it will start replacing the tree cell by cell with these minerals. And this is why you can get excellent petrified wood like this, where you can actually see the lines, the growth lines and everything, even the fiber structure. What it isn't is columbral basalt. This is formed through magma, like I said, the cooling down of magma. It contains iron, aluminium, silicon, magnesium, and so forth. Elements you would find in rock, especially in rocks formed from lava. And this is two processes that differ. What would happen because this couldn't have been completely covered by enough material or rocks to be able to petrify something this huge. And physics-wise, it wouldn't fit. And they would say, yeah, this is a cellular structure. The cellular structures wouldn't be this big. Even though it would be big, even though something grows big, cells always stay small. And also how gravity wouldn't make sense for this tree to survive if it were a tree that would be this big. Because if this is just the base, think how big this would be. Now, you have a certain length of where you can get water up to a tree. It uses small tubes to take the water from underground upwards towards the leaves. That's why there is limits on the sizes of trees, because that force of the surface tension that would push it up into the tree to the top has a limit of where it has enough energy to overcome gravity. And a tree that big would not be possible, because that is far beyond the capabilities of that mechanism to work.
They leave their axe behind.
Then they have this claim of that this natural formation is a giant axe that was used to cut down the giant trees. First, that wouldn't be even close to columbral basalt, because that's, as you can see, have the layered lines that was accumulated through over time. So it wouldn't have that pattern they always point to. But their theory would be falling apart if they show you the rest of the rock formation. This is one of the other views. As you can see, it forms also erosion lines of the characteristics of erosion. What happens is, as this was formed, there was stress lines that was formed through this. Erosion chooses not shapes, but it chooses the weakest points. The weakest points were the rock that's not there anymore. So it would corrode with wind and blowing up sand and dust and everything, and also through rain and the corrosion of water. It would take the other rock around it away. As you can see, the rock that's left is the strongest one that was least affected by corrosion. And here's just another view of the formation, and there you would see completely their theories falling apart. As you can see, it's all natural, and that all shape is part of the mountain that it is on. But this leaves me with the last question. In each claim of each video, they always say they. Who's the they? Who's they? Because they would say scientists and archaeologists, they would always point to somebody in government trying to hide the truth from people. But how would you feel if in your field of study, where you studied your whole life and worked countless hours with millions of people to find the answers and the truth behind certain stuff in nature that you see, called a conspiracy to hide the truth, where you know the truth, because you actively study to find it. And also, scientists isn't there to lie to you, they're only there to find the truth. And if they find something else that their theory was wrong, they would change it. That's part of the scientific method. So yeah, my question is, who's the they? Because the they you claim does not exist.